Members of the Survey Corps, this is your commander speaking. Today, I'm going to tell you about my very first job in Japan working at American English Institute, or also goes by the Japanese initials AEG, America Eigo Gakuin. So, in one of my previous videos, I talked about getting off the plane at Osaka Airport, spending the weekend, getting some training so that I could teach and be released into the giddy whirlpool of English teaching in Japan. So, AEG, America Eigo Gakuin, or in English, American English Institute, was my first job. So, it was based in a region of Japan, for those not familiar with Japan, called the Kansai area. Just as we have north, south, southwest, Pacific Northwest, northeast, southeast in the United States, Japan has the same regions too. So the Kansai area is one of them. So AEG, as I will refer to it from now on, not the one that is the entertainment group that is heavily involved in sports, was present throughout many of the prefectures, or we would call them states over here, in the Kansai area. So if I have to guesstimate, there were probably about 50 schools throughout the area. And I was based in a school in a city called Kishiwada. Kishiwada is famous for having what they call a Danjiri festival. For those of you who have never seen a video of a Danjiri, you can look it up on YouTube. It's basically a bunch of young people pulling these big, heavy wagons, you could say, around, and then usually a middle-aged man dancing and jumping on top of them and going at pretty horrific speeds. And there were some pretty horrific accidents too, of which back in the 90s they would sell those videos at video stores in Japan, so you could buy them. So if you're ever in the Kishiwada area, I hope you check it out around late August, early September. It's an autumn festival, or as we say in the States, it's a fall festival. So there I was, released onto the streets of Kishiwada to teach English at AEG. So the first couple of days were not so bad because I was just watching a senior teacher teach those classes. And like a lot of young people in my generation, I didn't take notes at the time. I thought, okay, I'll just pick it up by osmosis. Well, on my part, that turned out to not be a smart move. Because then when I did have to teach kids' classes, I had no idea what I was doing. And it was brutal that first year. So I would spend anywhere from, you could say, 4 to 6 hours a day planning for the lessons. And in spite of my best efforts, which included making games, writing out lesson plans, buying props, taking props, well, maybe not taking, borrowing props from the school, were to no avail. And that's because yours truly did not have a degree in education. He knew nothing about classroom management. Oh boy, it was a disaster. So this was a job listing that said you did not need a TESOL certificate or anything like that. We take recent college graduates, anybody that wants to teach in the countryside in Japan. We just need some friendly people over there. So you think, oh, okay, this should be an easy job. I'm friendly. I've not committed any crimes, which was very important in 1994. So this should be easy peasy, right? Well, darn. I tell you, those kids ran circles, and they literally ran circles around me. Just trying to get them to play a game, trying to get them to repeat after me. So, oh man, those were very stressful times. That wouldn't have been so bad because over time, I would have talked with other teachers, gotten their ideas. And naturally, after a year or so, would have I been as good as a professional teacher back in the States? Absolutely not. But I would have at least had some semblance of control over the class. The kids would have gotten used to me. But the higher ups were having nothing of it. After about a month and a half, they threatened to fire me if I didn't shape up or ship out. Well, for somebody who had borrowed money from his parents and was raised with the sink or swim mentality, I was scared you know what-less. Yes, I was scared you know what-less. I had no money for a ticket back home. I had no other place to go to live if I lost that job. So, and they threatened to revoke my visa. Now, on that part, I found out later on that they had no control over my visa. But when I was threatened at that time, I didn't know that. I was being taken advantage of. So, after a frantic weekend, I talked with my mom about it. I called her on the phone and talked with her. And I think she may have suggested call the consulate in Osaka. So I called the consulate in Osaka, and they said, while they can't do anything for me, they gave me the number to the General Union, which is still in existence today. So at that time, it resolved itself for a while after a month. Evidently, they thought that there was improvement in my classes, and so they kept me on for a while. But then I found out that not only was I not the only teacher, there were other teachers who were also dissatisfied with the company that I was working at. And so then we formed a union. And they went on strike eventually. But in the first strike, because I feared letting down this kindergarten that I taught at, I did not go. But upper management did not see that as, oh, he's dedicated. He's not with the union. He'll see his contract out and then go his merry way. They saw it as weakness, and they went after me. And this would have been March of 1995. So then I got back into the union, and from that point on, when they had the second strike, I was definitely there at that point. And I remember it was a Thursday that I did that. And I thought that my students would be very upset with me. But most of them, come to find out, were actually very supportive of what I did. So I guess that means a win in my column for me. For a bunch of But when I took a bunch of L's that first year. But then again, going from living with your parents to completely living on your own on the other side of the world when there was no internet. Yeah, we had computers, but no internet at that time. So it figures that I would have been like an expansion team in many sports leagues. It would have been a long, hard slog and many lessons to be learned. This fortunately did have an ending. I did get to see my contract through and did eventually move out. But I stayed in Japan and got a job with another school, which I will talk about in my next video. So if you're interested in the Osaka area, visit it. It's a great area. If you're not vegan like me, there's plenty of food for you to eat, like takoyaki, okonomiyaki. It's a great place. You can see I messed that up. Tsutengaku, Osaka Castle, or Osaka-jo Koen. Plenty of places to see. Universal Studios. It's just a fun town. I think that's what kept me, and that's why I didn't give up after a year. It was just so much fun. People were so friendly. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I stuck it out. And I'm glad I took that second job. Although at times I will admit over the past couple of decades, I thought, should I have done that? Well, I'll go into more detail of why that was a good decision. All right. Thank you for listening and subscribing to this channel and liking it. Take care. Bye.